Welcome to the Publish Her podcast, a place where you can come to get inspiration, motivation, help, encouragement, and support in your journey to write, publish, and sell your book. Hosted by Alexa Bigwharf.
'Cause I've been where you've been, and I felt what you're feeling, and I don't want to get in your way.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Publish Her podcast, where we bring you all the stuff we want to talk about, from writing to publishing to marketing to starting your own businesses to whatever really kind of falls in the scope of things. Today, I'm actually going to be talking about that business side, but it's very relevant to those of you in the author sphere. So a lot of times we want to become full-time employed, if you will, in the writing world and the publishing world and all of that world, but don't really know what to do. So, or how to do that. If our book isn't done yet and published yet, that's one big thing. And then if our book sales maybe aren't where we want, or maybe we just decide we like the process of being involved with other writers. So today I have Larissa Soehn, who is a well-established author and the founder of Next Page Wellness Coaching. She has an extensive experience in writing, publishing, and marketing books from various genres. She serves female entrepreneurs in client-based industries, namely as coaches and service providers, and has become a book coach to many of these women in this particular industry. So it's a very long bio here. Sorry,
that's good enough. Good enough.
I'm looking through here trying to pull the pieces that are most relevant to what we're talking about, because there's a lot of great stuff in here. By the way, y'all, you can go to the show notes and you can read her full bio, where there's a lot happening. But you're a certified professional coach from the International Coach Academy, and have the background and training in it. And now you've pulled that together and work with authors, correct? Am I
correct? Yes. You got the long version of my bio, I see.
It's always funny, depending on what day I send bios. Sometimes when people are reading my bio, I'm like, oh, that was not what I should have sent over.
Sorry about that. That's the long version.
It's okay. Then you have hosts like me that are just like, okay, we're just going to skip.
Yeah,
that's going to get to the meat of it. Sorry about that. But what's important is talking to us about, so you were an author first, correct?
Yeah.
And
I became an author about 3 years ago now on my debut novel. It's a sci-fi novel, and my goal was never to write a book. I never had this, and everyone you talk to has a little bit of a different story. Sometimes they're like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. And I just had an interview yesterday with someone that was like me and had no clue we were going to be writing a book, but that's where it went.
I love it when that happens. So, and it's really funny though, that then you say your first book was a sci-fi. So if you had no clue you were going to write a book, how did you just wind up writing a sci-fi?
Yeah. So my husband and I used to have a side business where we created mystery escape room games.
How much fun?
Yeah, it was a blast. And we primarily focused on games for kids. So it was fun. But I was off work at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to create another game. And I'm going to make it like an alien-based game. Like you travel to different planets to unlock different puzzles and things like that. And I started writing, and I kept writing and writing. And I was about 10,000 words in. And my husband walks in. He's like, what are you working on? And I was like, I think I'm writing a book. This is much longer than any game I've ever done. And it just snowballed, and it turned into this amazing world building magic system book.
That's pretty fun and exciting. And I have to say, it seems like the best way to write a book, really, right? When you have this kind of like passion project that turns into something more that you're just loving the whole time. That's really cool. So now you've got a book coming up soon, How to Write a Book, Memoirs and Autobiographies. So how did this become the book that you decided to write?
Yeah, so that it actually came out on December 1st and hit bestseller list pretty much right away. So that was really nice. But I wanted to, so I started my business back in October. And I wanted a book that was more in line with my genre, practice what you preach kind of a thing.
Right.
And so I had created this 12-week program of writing, editing, marketing, and publishing your book. So it was fast. It was hard, right? And I wanted to, put my stamp behind it and say, you can do this. And so I did it myself. I ran myself through the program. I wrote the book within 4 weeks, and then I went through the editing, marketing, and publishing component in the other 8 weeks. And I wanted to prove that you could write a nonfiction book that quickly. I
Mhm.
wanted to prove that you could publish it and edit it in that time. And I wanted to prove that you could get to bestseller with
Mhm.
something like that. So I had heard this really compelling story from a woman that early dementia ran in her family.
Mm.
And she was saying she was really scared to lose her memories for herself and for her family because she was so young. Her children were relatively young, teens kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And she didn't want to lose this memory, but she didn't know what to do. And I was like, well, what do you mean you don't know what to do? Write a book, like write them down. And it just, sometimes I struggle with the fact that not everybody can turn to writing so easily.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can help her. I can create something that guides her and helps her tell her story. And that's how my book came to be.
That's a really, really sweet story. I mean, not sweet, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think some of the best for entrepreneurs in general, I think some of the best businesses and books and programs often stem from trying to help someone else. At least that's my philosophy. That's kind of where a lot of our stuff came from helping other people too. So that's cool. I can totally get behind that establishment of your business through that
Mhm.
way. So what point in time, I mean, you're doing all this other stuff. You have the health and wellness stuff, you're coaching coaches, you're doing all of this stuff. At what point in time, when did you make the shift to say, okay, I want to be a book coach?
It
Was it
kind
with
of
this one person, this one story?
Yeah, well, it kind of fell into my lap. And now it seems so obvious. But I went through this shift in my life where I suffered extreme burnout from my job and I needed a career change.
Mm,
And so I started looking at, well, what can I do versus and what do I enjoy doing? And so I was going down this path of like psychology, mental health, like becoming a counselor. But that takes a lot of time. That takes
yeah.
6 to 8 years to go down that path. And I wanted to do something now. So I kind of turned to coaching. And then I went through a 1 year coaching program, came out with some accreditations, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. Um, but I needed to niche down
Mhm.
and I needed to find my people that I had something in common with and that I could guide them through. And I think if I remember correctly, my husband and I were sitting in the hot tub doing some of our best thinking, because that's where we do our best thinking. And I was talking about my books and I was talking about, just how powerful it was from a marketing perspective. And remember, at this time, my book was a sci-fi book. So it had
Right.
nothing to do with my niche. And yet it was still such a marketing tool.
Yeah.
And my husband, Kyle, he's like, well, why don't you teach people to write books? And I was like, oh my God, light bulb. There it is. Like, that is what I need to be doing. It's my passion. I enjoy it. I'm good at it.
Mhm.
And others can benefit from it. And they all just kind of came together.
That's really great. Our origin stories are so very similar. It's interesting to listen to you tell your version of it. Because I had kind of a similar experience with my first books being about, well, grief and loss was our first one, and then doing some parenting things, and then people were just asking like, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And I found so much joy in helping people through the process. Little did I know 10 years later, where it would bring us. But it is fun I think when you come at something because you enjoy doing it, because you're skilled at doing it, because I mean, it's just a different feeling, right? When you're working with someone who's there because they love doing it. I can feel when you're talking, I can feel that you love doing this and the joy behind it. And hopefully people who work with me feel the same way. But as I promised in the beginning that we were going to talk a little bit about like how you can make the leap from working in an XYZ job to coming over and doing things within the writing world. Is that something you want to jump into for a second?
Yeah, I want to say I have the wisdom of someone who has been doing this for years, but I only just made the leap in October.
So
So
it's fresh.
it's
This is
very
good.
fresh. But like, I think my biggest advice would be prepared to struggle at
Ah,
first,
yes.
right? Because I I'm a very optimistic person and I'm a very impatient person. So when you put those two together, starting up a business has been a true test of my will, my devotion, my determination, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm only 3 months in and I'm still in that grunge, dredge through it stage of getting to meet people, setting up connections. Like where I worked before, I had absolutely nothing to do with this. I was in a
Right.
petrochemical industry
Oh my gosh.
and like totally different. I had never met another author before, like socially. I didn't like nobody that I talked to was like, oh my gosh, I want to write a book. And so it was this huge leap for me. And what I have learned is to make friends fast.
Yeah.
Like reaching out and making these kind of connections with
Yeah.
industry partners, because you're going to learn so much that way. And this trial and error thing, yeah, you have to do a little bit of that. But if you find the right connections, they will support you along the way. Like I've learned so much from people that are technically direct competitors, but they're
Right.
so kind and they're so
Yeah.
welcoming and they're so sharing.
I think that's one of the interesting things, not interesting necessarily, one of the best things about the indie publishing world is I rarely run up against anyone who feels like a competitor. Like I feel like many of us, maybe it's just the vibes that we put out and we attract the kind of people that we want to be around, but our community, a big plug here, if you're not going to the Women in Publishing Summit, if you are looking to make those type of connections, because we've got people like you who are book coaches, we have authors, we have editors, we have publishers, we have businesses who run tools and programs for it. So but I agree. It's been very much an experience of finding mentors and other people in the industry. And so to piggyback on what you said, I mean, I think the way forward, if you're looking to build a job in this and move into it, is to completely surround yourself by other people who are already doing it. And I have found that most people are so willing to pay it backwards, pay it forwards, give advice. I've gotten so much just guidance from other people in this industry, men and women. I won't say that it's just been the female mentors, some men like Dave Chesson and Ray Brome and all kinds of guys in the industry that have been really good mentors as well. So anyway, that's I appreciate that you said that, because it really is about networking. It really is about who you know, and then it's about what you know after that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, so you are if you've only been in this a few months, then you're starting off your program. You just told us about a program that you put together that you tested and did with your own book. So how can people learn more about that particular program, and who is the right person for that program?
Yeah. So I primarily target coaches, so that are
Okay.
in the servicing industry. They've got clients and they're really looking to grow and to scale up. They have clients trickling in every now and again. They've got a website, they've got some funnels set up, but it's time to grow and it's time to move to the next step in their business. And they are really, really interested in that book aspect. So,
Yeah.
they like writing,
Yeah.
generally speaking. It's much easier to bring someone along if they like writing.
Yes.
You don't
That should
have
be a
to.
prerequisite.
I guess it's not totally prerequisite. I can teach you how to write. It just helps if you like it.
True.
So true. It's so true. But yeah, you can find out more larissasoehn.coach. My program is in there. At this point, I do have a couple of freebies out there that I'm willing to hand out, like 4 steps to get to your best-selling book kind of a thing. I've got a free marketing chapter if you're further along in your book journey and you're looking how to market your program or your book. I've got some tips on that. And then yeah, just reach out to me at larissasoehn.coach. There's a contact me page and we jump on a quick discovery call and we really hone in on what it is that you're looking for and how we can work together.
Well, that is great. We will have all of these links and all of this information on the show notes page, and it's Soehn, correct?
Yeah.
In the
Yes.
spelling of that, because that might throw some people if they're just listening, but we'll make sure it's all there on the page. So head on over there, grab those links or click on those links. And where do you want people to be following you? Do you have a social media or preferred place you want to send people?
Yeah, I do. I have a private Facebook group, Write, Publish, and Sell Your Dream Book, I believe
Okay.
is where it landed. So
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So that should sound very familiar to a lot of people. So, all right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking time out and coming over and talking to us today. I'm always interested in hearing the journeys of how people get from point A to B in their author and in your case, coaching situations. So is
Mhm.
there any last thing you want to make sure you get in before I wrap this up?
I think it would just be that if you want to write a book, do it. Don't
Mhm.
hold off until the perfect time. There is no such thing as the perfect time. If this is something that's been on your dream list, one of my favorite questions is if we were 12 months in the future and you looked back, what has to have happened to make you feel like you were successful? And a lot of times for people, that is getting my book written
Yeah.
and published. So
Yeah.
just do it, make the leap.
Great advice. All right. Thank you so much.
You don't have to give me your heart. You don't have to give it away. You don't
Thank you for joining us on the Publisher Podcast. We hope to see you back for the next episode. Great, huge thanks goes to Jasmine Commerce for the use of her song. You can find Jasmine on SoundCloud. Go check out all of her music. We'll see you next time.